Hey everyone, we are live for our Sunday weekly warm-up show that is exclusive in our private Facebook group over at teachbettergroup.com. Brad Hughes is having technical difficulties, so fingers crossed he's going to be here. Like I can see him, he just isn't connecting well in the background. But don't worry, I'm not here by myself. I have Lindsay with me today. We're going to have a great discussion. As many of you know, the Sunday show is something really near and dear to our Teach Better family because we love being here every single Sunday to get you ready for any week that you have ahead. For many of you, you've started winter break. For some of us, we are still continuing with students this week. Regardless of where you are, we want to make sure we are here to set you up for success as we head into what we are all excited for, that holiday season. Lindsay has a lot of advice to share, and we definitely want to hear from you in the comments. We stream exclusive in our private Facebook group on Sundays so that not only we can see your comments and enjoy them, but also so you can see one another's comments and not only connect with those here on the screen, but also those in the comments and continue to build your network. You will catch this video, though, after the fact, 24 hours later, where we will re-stream this recording over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. So don't worry, no matter where you're watching from, we're glad you're here, and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, my name is Hughart, and I have the wonderful Lindsay Lyons with me. Lindsay, how are you?
I'm good, Ray. How are you?
I'm good and happy that you're here. I'm so thrilled that you're kind of wrapping up this semester for us because we're taking the next 2 weeks off of our Sunday weekly warm-up for some special holidays coming up that I know many people are celebrating. So thanks for closing out the year with us.
Yeah, I feel honored to be in this position. Thanks for having me.
It's so good. Lindsay, I'm excited to catch up with you, hear all your insight. You're the perfect person to close out the year. But before we get too far in, will you share a little bit about who you are, just in case people haven't connected with you yet?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I started my teaching career thinking I was never going to be a teacher because my parents were teachers. And I was like, oh, I know about the hard parts of this job. So no, thank you. And then I was like, oh man, every time I get into, like, I was a gender women's studies major, a sociology major, and I'm seeing all these like world problems, and I'm like, oh, it's the kids. The kids will save us all. And so I decided education was the path. So did New York City teaching fellows, did my alternative certification, taught for 7 years there, and now I'm an educational justice coach. And so what I do is really help teachers and leaders help kind of create the systems for teachers to thrive, in the sense of like, how do we teach for justice? How do we co-create curriculum that really advances racial, gender, linguistic justice? And that is just my absolute passion. I love doing that stuff.
I cannot wait for us to dive into this more because getting into the nitty gritty of the work that you specialize in, I just find so fascinating. It's something I feel so strongly we can all be better in. And so I'm just so excited that you're going to be here to chat with us today. We have a lot of people in the comments, and I want to make sure that we not only say hello to each and every one of you, but that you guys are always taking the time to say hi to each other and connect with one another. And of course, with Lindsay. Lindsay, where are you streaming from this afternoon?
I am in Framingham, Massachusetts, which is just outside of Boston.
Nice. Oh, I love that area. That's so fun. So cool.
Yeah.
I see Nikki in the comments. Nikki Jacoby, I just want to give you a shout out that I am wearing Teach Better swag today. This is our Happy Hanukkah shirt. For those of you celebrating, Happy Hanukkah that kicked off this evening. And they always make fun of me, Lindsay, that I never wear Teach Better swag. So I just want on record, this is in our swag store. I bought it last year. This is my Hanukkah shirt, and y'all should go get one over at the Teach Better swag store.
It is amazing. I love it.
I love it. And to be honest, I feel like I could do an ad for this because it's like soft and it like fits really well. I actually have a few of like the long sleeves in the swag store, and it's just always so fun to have good Teach Better swag, right? I mean, if we always love to wear things we support, so why not?
Absolutely.
Be a good stocking stuffer from what I understand. Brad Hughes is in the background here, and he was having technical difficulties, but this might work. So the one and only Brad Hughes, drum roll please. Hey Brad.
Thanks for the drum roll. I can hear and see you. Everything is live. And I believe we're in the Sunday weekly warm-up. Am I better late than never, I guess. Sorry, everybody.
To clarify, Brad, you always, during any live stream I'm with you, you pop in like 30 seconds before we go live. And every time we like cross our fingers, we're like, I hope Brad shows up. However, today you were like 10 minutes early and we chatted for a bit and you only had technical difficulties like 2 seconds before we went live.
Well, I knew Lindsay Lyons was going to join us tonight, Ray. So, I wanted to be early because early is the same as on time and Teach Better time. So we wanted to make sure I was early and that I could welcome Lindsay in along with you and just have like a seamless start to the Sunday weekly warm-up, one of the highlights of my week for sure. But my computer had other ideas. And so, but thanks for inviting me back in. I appreciate reconnecting with everybody.
We're thrilled you're here, Brad. I know that we'll get into some really good discussion because Lindsay kind of gave a little sneak peek of her specialty and the work that she gets to do with educators on a daily basis. But before we get into any of that, how was everyone's weekend? Brad, how was your weekend?
Great weekend, Ray. Very relaxing. Spent a good amount of the afternoon working on a jigsaw puzzle at the kitchen table with my daughter, Megan. Lots of great movies streaming this weekend and just relaxing. We do have a full week of school ahead, so I was just trying to tell myself it was an investment in my well-being. So I'm charged up and powered up for a great week ahead as we head into the winter break. And I'm wondering how your weekend was, Ray, and how about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, Lindsay, why don't you share? How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was good. I was telling Ray earlier, the nap schedule is a little off for my 9-month-old, so that it was a little bit of exhausting in that sense. But got a great nap in as my partner and I went for a run. We have this really cool old rail trail, and we like to run and like push the stroller. So we're like nap time and exercise time.
That's wonderful. And Lindsay, I'm really curious. Nap schedule for a 9-month-old. I mean, it's been a while since I've had a 9-month-old in my life, but wow, it's just sleep when your baby sleeps. Catch some time when you can, right? Just wow, it's
absolutely
just
yes.
incredible.
And if there is no napping, there is no mom resting.
Well, we're hoping that maybe the nap schedule like gets back on track starting tomorrow.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Brad, you have Nikki in the comments saying that she also did a puzzle this weekend. So it sounds like puzzles may have been a popular choice as an activity this weekend.
It may have been. I mean, whatever brings people together. I mean, literally putting the pieces together. But if it brings you together with family, whether it's around a menorah or whether it's around a TV show or a puzzle or a board game or whatever it is, 'tis the season to get together and really prioritize time with loved ones. And that's what it's all about.
So fun. Yeah, I see Rebecca's comment here about how Hanukkah kicked off tonight and she thought it started tomorrow. That's okay, friends. Hanukkah is on the lunar calendar, so Jewish holidays kick off at sundown. So the first day of Hanukkah is tomorrow. So Rebecca, you're totally right. But there is some candle lighting that started this evening. So it's 8 days. And the last day, I think, is like the day after Christmas. But it goes 8 days. We just kicked it off tonight. Menorahs only have 2 candles in them right now. And we go all 8 days to fill it up. And it's so fun. But we had a weird weekend. We did a Christmas party, which was really fun. And then we did cookie decorating, which is always a fan favorite. And then we lit a menorah and played dreidel and opened some presents. So we're just all the religions this weekend. I feel like we covered it.
All the festivals in your life and all of the opportunities for you to connect with loved ones too, Ray. I mean, when you look ahead to Hanukkah, what are a couple of things that you're really looking forward to or that really mean the most to you at this time?
I am a sucker for, I love celebrating everyone's holidays. Like the fact that we are so diverse and we can all celebrate each other's celebrations, regardless if they're personal, professional, religious. I love a reason to like have a little bit of a celebration. My favorite thing though over Hanukkah is I FaceTime my grandma every single night of Hanukkah and we light the candles together. Wow. So it was kind of a fun thing. She's been in the hospital. I know I've talked about it on the show. She's been in the hospital for the last 2 months. And so we FaceTimed just actually like 20 minutes ago and lit the menorah together. So it's a fun little tradition. But I think anything like you were saying, Brad, anything that brings people together with some sort of intentionality where you can really soak up the moment is just so special about this season. It's not even Hanukkah specific. It's just this beautiful season we're in December.
And Lindsay, when I think about your 9-month-old and the family opportunities that you have, will extended family be part of your plans, especially with a little one in your life?
Oh my gosh, that is the question of the week. Everyone is
Yeah.
asking, will they get to see this baby? So I think it's so tough, with COVID and everything for the last several years. It's been like okay, how do we limit this and so plans are still in motion. But yeah, I think we're going to be able to see a few family, probably just intimate family for now. But yeah, everyone's really thrilled because having a baby is just like, no one cares about the adults in the picture. They're just like, give me that baby.
You can play the traditional holiday, traditional game of pass the baby, and
Right.
as long as the baby comes back to you, then that's an extra bonus. But I mean, little ones are so special, and really, it is the holiday time where when you bring people together and you can celebrate. I'm thinking of your grandma Ray, your grandmother, and celebrate Lindsay on the other end of the scale, the youngest in our lives. It really is an incredible time, and it's all about making those connections intentional.
Absolutely.
So fun. Brad, are you going to have some family get together over the next few weeks? I know we're talking about a lot of people who are celebrating holidays over the next few weeks, but we won't be live. This is the time to talk about it. What are your holiday plans?
Yeah, I'd love to share what's going on. So this past weekend, I was with my mom and my brother and sister-in-law, and both of our families got together to celebrate my mom's 80th birthday. So mom turns 80 on December 24th. It's always been a tradition that it's been mom's birthday until 6 p.m. and then we kind of turn the attention to Christmas Eve. And so mom enjoys being celebrated. So we had a really nice lunch out together. And the server brought out a big piece of cheesecake for mom with a sparkler in it to celebrate her 80th. And we have some special surprises cooked up. I think mom tunes into the weekly warm up. If not live, she'll tune in later. So I don't want to give too much away now, Ray, but we do have some special things cooked up for her 80th.
Oh, that's such a big celebration, Brad. Well, you'll have to tell us after the fact when we come live again at the new year that we'll get to hear about how her birthday was and how everyone's holiday festivities turned out.
Ray, a really wonderful connection was way, way, way back. You and I were talking about this Storyworth project where both you and I gave a gift of a cumulative story, a journal that would be published. So your loved one completes sort of an assignment every week or every other week, and it turns into a journal, and then you can gift the finished journal. So it turns out that one of the chapters that my mom created in the Storyworth journal was about a childhood friend that she met, I think, in 7th grade or 8th grade. And she was saying about how she would walk home or walk to this friend's house for lunch over the noon hour at school, and then they would walk back. And it turns out that mom recently reconnected with this dear, dear friend, the same friend she wrote this chapter about. And she happened to find out where her friend was working. She's working at a big craft store, school, a warehouse in the city of London, Ontario, where my mom lives. But long story short, she and a number of girlfriends from elementary school, from middle school, Ray, got together this past week and just reminisced and had time together. So when mom was sharing that, I was thinking of you too, Ray, about your Storyworth project too, and really a Storyworth project coming true for my mom.
Oh, so special. Lindsay, I don't know if you've ever heard of this gift, but I really think that it's something every family should do because when you gift the present, it's obviously very special, but then you go the whole year writing it. And then when you get the book, it's like a second gift. Like it's comical to my grandma when she finished hers, like we bought like 14 books and everyone got one. It's like so funny that now we all have this beautiful memento that was actually just a gift from the year prior, which is so fun.
Oh, that's incredible. I have heard of it, but we haven't done it yet. I think this is the push I needed to start.
Definitely something worth doing. And Brad, I'm not sure about you, but I do feel like it was appropriate for any age. I know that, we did gift it to family members that had some of that family history to share, but I kind of feel like you could give this to a peer, a friend, a colleague, and really get a ton of value out of it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, everyone has a story, and it's those stories within the stories that get uncovered in a project like this because the prompts, prompt you to think back to something memorable, important, but also the everyday moments that stick with you, really part of this project too. So I agree. It could be for anyone in your life, a friend, a partner, a coworker. It could be even for a child, or it could be a project that say a parent or a caregiver and a child do together. So Lindsay, I'm thinking about your littlest one at home, and maybe it's something that you can do on behalf of your child, and it can be a gift for them when they are a certain age, but that might be a neat thing to do too.
I love that idea. And my brain was going as the curriculum coach was like, oh, this would be a really cool curriculum piece where kids write every Friday or something. And at the end of the year, you have like these beautiful stories they could give their parents or something, right? Like what?
That's a good teacher right there. Look, she's already ready for our discussion, Brad. I know we're headed in that direction, but before we transition into our good conversation, education-focused conversation today, are any of you traveling over the holidays, or do you get to stay put where you live?
Lindsay, tell us about your travel plans.
Yeah, so right now, we are like, we're in it, we're staying put. I think we are very protective of the day itself. Like we don't do a huge thing on Christmas, but like it's Christmas in our family is the holiday that we celebrate. And so we just kind of stay, we relax. Historically, we've done like restaurants, like eating out, that kind of thing where it's like, we're not even cooking. This time, I think we're going to do something between like Christmas and New Year's where we might do like a 48-hour whirlwind tour of like the 3 different towns in New York that we go to.
Yeah. That's so fun. Brad, what about you?
All of our family, Ray, is within about 2 hours of each other here in Southwest Ontario. So weather depending, we'll make trips to see my brother, sister-in-law, and their kids, my niece and nephew. I will make sure to connect with my mom, who's in London, Ontario, and my wife Jennifer's family are here in Waterloo region. So we'll be making our way around, and weather really does play a factor. So we make our plans, and then we have backup plans. So the backup plans, depending on whether we get snowed in or not.
I'm just glad that's normal for every family. Give us all permission to have that. Like Lindsay, when you were like, oh, the plans aren't solidified yet. I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah. Well, I am headed tomorrow to Vegas, but only for a conference. I'm there for just a few days, and then I am staying put the whole break. So if anyone needs anything, you can find me in Illinois minus the next 3 days. We're taking a little trip. Shout out to Joshua Stamper and Jeff Gargas. We're all going over to Vegas to a fun education conference and talking shop with a few educators. Then we're headed home, and it'll be an easy trip.
Ray, you're burying a bit of the story here because you are not only attending, but you're speaking on a panel there, and I would love you to tell viewers and listeners what that's about.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. I think it's streaming as well. So if any of you are interested in hearing the panel, I hope you follow along. I'm sure the 3 of us will be posting, and the Teach Better team, of course, will be posting. But we're speaking to failure in the classroom. That's what I'll have the opportunity to speak on Tuesday morning. So it'll be really nice to be over on the West Coast, although it's really cold over there. I just looked it up because I haven't packed yet, but I will. And I'm telling you, it was like a high of 40. I'm like, hold on. If I'm going to Vegas, I thought it was warm. I just thought like that's not any warmer than it is in Chicago right now.
Ray, I also know that you are not one to talk yourself up. You are as humble as they come, but if I remember correctly, you're receiving some kind of special recognition at this conference. Is that right?
I am. Yes, I'm really excited to learn more about everything that's going on in Vegas. But yeah, I'll be speaking Tuesday morning on a panel, and then I'll be getting an educational leadership award with this organization as well. So it'll be fun to network with people, and it's always fun to, have a good photo op, right? Don't we all appreciate a good photo op?
Well,
maybe
I
should have a cool plaque to show everybody when I get back.
If it's Vegas, I'm wondering if you're going to get one of those giant golden, heavyweight belts that you can kind of march around and, who knows? I mean, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but I really do hope that you share out pictures and some mementos of that recognition, Ray, because it's well-deserved.
I appreciate it. I was telling the little ones earlier today, I was like, oh, I'm getting an award on Tuesday. So when I get back on Wednesday, I'm excited to show you. And she's like, what if it's so big it doesn't fit in your suitcase? And then in my head, I was like, wait, is that a concern I need to have? Like, no, this is just hopefully like a dinky little plaque. Hold on. I'm traveling. Like, guys, do I need to bring a bigger suitcase?
The great news is that the Teach Better jet can bring your award back. I mean, you just have to call on the Teach Better phone, and the Teach Better jet will be there in a matter of moments. It can take you and your award back to wherever you want.
Thankfully, I'm going with Jeff Gargas, and so that if it's something that I can't problem solve, I'm going to hand it to him and be like, "Good luck, buddy. Take this home."
Yep.
It'll be fine. All right, let's get into some good discussion. Obviously, we'll be talking shop education all week long, like many of you. But Lindsay, I know you have so much value to share about the work that you do. And while we could reminisce about like the fun that all of us have planned for the next 2 weeks, let's definitely get into some good stuff. All right, Brad, we have some good conversation happening now with our fun discussion. Lindsay, you were sharing earlier about the specialty work that you do, which I know so many educators can benefit from. If people are popping in a little bit late, tell us a little bit about the work that you do. Give us that broad overview, and then let's get into some specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. So generally speaking, I am excited to really brainstorm anything curriculum related that advances justice. So that spans a range of subjects, of grades, of specific things that we do. I love thinking about like the unit design and how we construct like a driving question that really excites and engages students, and then actually has them implement like an activist project. So they're actually like taking an issue that they care about, not that we care about, right? That's important, but that they care about. And they're like doing something to make their community immediately better. So I like my research and dissertation stuff is all on student voice and student leadership. And often I hear people be like, oh, we're preparing students for this distant future where they will be leaders. And I'm like, they are leaders right now. Like, how do we get them to do that and embed that in the curriculum so it's not like something they have to stay after school to do, right? So that's a little bit about what I do.
So important. Brad, I knew you would love this topic. I've talked to Lindsay a bunch. She's part of our Edupreneur Mastermind here with the Teach Better team for educators. They're just doing such wonderful things in the business end of the education world. But Brad, I knew you would love her focus on embedding this into daily curriculum.
You know it. And what I honor about that approach, Lindsay and Ray, is that you're meeting the students right where they are, and they're activating their natural interests and their natural desire to contribute. And then the contribution develops into leadership where, you know, students that are engaged in activism and community, whether it's for the betterment of the class, the school, the town, city, whatever it is, or even on a state or a national focus, you're activating their natural energy and their eagerness to serve and eagerness to know that they can make a difference, no matter whether they're, 4 or 14 or whatever it is. It's just incredible. I'm really excited to hear more, Lindsay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. Where should I begin? What would be helpful to start with?
Yeah, Lindsay, tell us first how you got into this work. Where's this passion come from? And then I know that you're doing work with teachers on a daily basis with school districts and with the coaching that you do. So we want to get into all the nitty gritty. I know our community here loves action steps, things that they can actually implement as early as tomorrow if they're headed back into the classroom. So any area that you feel like is a great piece of tidbit for them to take away.
Okay, so there are so many things. So in terms of how I got into it, so I was saying in my initial intro, so I was sociology, general women's studies major in college. And so I kind of went around a bunch of different ways. And one of the things I leaned at, I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer, which obviously did not happen. But I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer and I am going to work with people who have survived abuse and intimate partner violence. And then I was like, I don't want to, like, that end of the spectrum, like when it's already happened, is not something that that's not my skill set. I want to prevent it from happening. And so like, I want to work with people to be these like feminist, anti-racist young people, right? That are like doing good in the world now as young people, and then just ultimately saving us all from ourselves and growing up and making society better. So that's kind of like my in and why I got into it. I have always loved, like, as a college student, I was a TA and like course creator for some like feminist projects and courses. So I've always been really intrigued by this. And then as a teacher, got to do gender studies as a class, first as an elective in 2 schools, and then as a core literacy, we called it literacy class for like the credits, but it was really a feminist, anti-racist class, which was super cool. And so then when I was there, I really started thinking about, okay, what would make this work sustainable? Like, how do people create these units? Because I was creating a new unit, every quarter that was just brand new. And every year I repeated it, I would do brand new units because the students change. So the interests change, and the current events change. And so the issues change. And so that was kind of something I developed, and I developed this process of backwards planning for like justice-based and project-based units. And so that's something that I can speak a little bit about today if that feels helpful. But that's kind of my origin story.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Brad.
Sorry, Ray. Thanks. And I would love to hear more about how you have backwards planned, because you're beginning with the end in mind. You're beginning with an overarching goal, and it sounds like you are developing a situation where you can backwards map towards any social justice or any kind of equity issue, especially as more and more topics come to the kids' minds.
Yeah. So absolutely. So I think one of the most important things was that when I designed, I wasn't trying to design for like what I thought would be a lesson level detailed plan. I was designing for so I call it a unit arc. I have no idea if this is something other people say, but I always call it a unit arc. And so I was trying to figure out like, what is a type of lesson? For example, like a documentary or a news clip, and paired with a discussion circle or something, right? Like, what is a kind of hook lesson? What does that look like no matter what the content is? What does it look like to like study the core issue? And so here's like some text-based protocols, right? Like a gallery walk and a jigsaw or whatever. And then how do we move to what I call case studies? So like, here's how this core issue shows up in maybe this country or this community. And so like the format of the lessons, I always call them protocols, but those stay the same. And then the students bring in their passions, and I can pull in current event articles and things like that. So the content can always shift. And even if I was teaching like a science course or a math course, I could still have that unit arc that stays. And then I just get to substitute new content, which to me, a huge thing with educators, right? Especially with this work on justice, like that's emotional labor there that is just like added on to our existing emotional labor that we take on. And we have so little time and resources. How do we make it sustainable and joyful at the same time? And so for me, that was a huge piece. So yeah, we start with like the protocols in the unit arc. We have priority standards. There's always way too many standards to cover. So like, how do we choose what's the priority, right? And how do we define that clearly with like a rubric that we can use for every single assignment? So again, trying to think sustainable practices here. And then I think the big thing that I absolutely love is what's the driving question for the unit? And I do quarter-long units. You have to come up with 4 for the whole year, which feels just easier than like all of the questions for every lesson. And then what is the project? And I love when students can co-create the project. So I don't like always defining what it is, but I might throw out a few options. And I always like to think about like, what's a publishing opportunity? And so by that, I mean, like, where does it go that like lives beyond the teacher and beyond the class? Like, who else gets to experience it? And so that might be like a social justice expo. And then we invite teachers and other students in, the community members in. It might be like, there's a podcast thing that Code Switch is hosting, and we're going to send our pieces off, and one of them is going to win and get promoted, like that kind of thing. So that was a lot of talking. I'll throw it back to you guys.
No, Lindsay, it's so valuable. And I know that so many of us are thinking through this process and really relating it back to what we know is just good teaching practices.
Yeah.
And the beauty of then blending this into really seeing our students as the human beings that they are, the contributors to the community that they already are. It's so, so valuable. In our comments, just looking at who's joining us live this afternoon, we have a variety of different educators here. We have reading teachers at the middle school level. We have elementary school teachers. We have some high school teachers, science, math. We're covering so many different networks right now within our Teach Better family. If educators are listening to you share, how do they engage with this content? Is this meant for them to be an advocate where they should go to their leadership and say, hey, we should have a class structured like this? How can I support you in that? Or is this something that any educator at any grade level can take on within their own classroom?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, such a great question. So I think it is always easier when it is a system-wide thing. So I think always advocate for that space to do this work. And I think also when we're talking about justice, especially given things like book bans in the United States and like different legislation, I think it's always helpful to have a conversation with your administrator just to say like, hey, what protection are you giving me? Like what buffer are you giving me to be able to do this really important work? Because it's going to be way easier if I know you have my back. So I do think there's a conversation both structurally and systemically and also just like content wise and support wise to have there. But I definitely designed this with like just for myself initially and then for individual teachers before I realized how beneficial it would be to get to like the systems level. So any teacher can use, even with, I mean, honestly, even if you're not teaching for justice, I think everyone should, but even if you're not, right, you could still use this approach. And then think about like the existing unit you have. How do we just make the driving question just a little bit more engaging and a little bit more like activisty? How do we like pull in, an issue? And we issue, I think someone in a recent NCSS conference called it issueizing. So I don't know if that's a popular term, but like, how do we issueize the content, right? And like, I think so many things. For example, I was coaching a geometry teacher and she's like, I teach geometry. Like, how do we connect this to justice? I was like, oh my gosh, we could do like gerrymandering and like, so I guess I'll use that as an example. If you looked at gerrymandered maps, right, and like talked about like who lives where and who gets the right to vote, and like, can we maybe do like a mini unit in collaboration with a social studies teacher or something, or even on my own? And then thinking about a driving question for that, it wouldn't be like, what does a gerrymandered map look like or something? It would be like, create your own map, like use this demographic data. What would an equitable relationship to voting look like in this district or something, right? And like use students' creativity to be able to invite them into like the solution for the problem. So, yeah.
So good. Lindsay, something I really love about the work you're doing is that, and I mean this in a good way, it's never done. It's never finished, right? There's always more to do. And I really value that because as educators, we, gripe, we complain about things that are like a one and done or things that don't sustain the gift of time. Now, this is something that we can keep at the forefront of our mind for the next many, 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 many years and still have more work to be done in this space. If an educator is looking to be better in so many different components that they can be related to this topic, any suggestions for this coming week? It's like the week before many people go on winter break over the US and Canada holiday season. Like, any suggestions on where an educator might just become a little bit better by taking on something?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I think this is a beautiful pairing, especially if you're about to see family. So I think this was a big thing for like the 2016 election cycle in the United States, but really at any point, there's always like political issues that you're like, sometimes anyway, some families are like, ooh, I don't know if like my aunt is going to bring up this political piece and I don't know if I'm going to change the conversation or I'm going to go into it. And so I think having those conversations, like practicing the conversations with family, with adults is really powerful. One, so that you get the sense of like, if you're about to facilitate a conversation about justice or injustice in your class, right? Like you also want to be comfortable in that space. So many times, and I've heard multiple people say this, I don't think this is a new idea, but so many times it's often the adults that are less comfortable talking about this stuff than the students, right? The students are like, yeah, I don't see a problem with this. Like, let's talk. And then we kind of bring our baggage into it. And so I think so much of the work is really practice, like practice talking about issues that you care about, or, practice asking the tough questions, practice responding to something that, ooh, if a child says that in my class, I don't know how to respond. So practice with those family members that you're kind of nervous about, right? And I think that's really hard work. So if you're ready for a real hard challenge, I say go there. Staff and colleagues is also wonderful. I highly encourage every leader to have staff conversations that are about like a current event or an injustice, just in case like they're trying to do that practice and don't have those other spaces for practice. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. I also think if you're more of an introvert or you're not quite ready for that piece, or you don't have an aunt that you're like, oh, I don't know, just to read something or listen to a podcast about something that you can learn a little bit more about. There's never going to be a point where we've, as you said, right, the work is never done. We're never going to like achieve like wokeness or whatever term, right, you want to use, but we can always be learning. And I think everyone in this community is. And so I encourage us to just kind of learn one tiny thing that we can kind of bring into our curriculum whether that's something about a holiday that you didn't know about, or whether that's something that's like going on in the news right now. Mental health is a huge conversation at the moment. Like, how do we learn a little bit about what that means for different groups of people and bring that in?
So good. You know, Brad, I know this is a topic we could talk at length about, but I really love Anne-Marie's question. I'm not sure if you want to pop that up on the screen. It says, I love this so much. It's so important and what teaching should be. And then she has a question here, Lindsay, that I'd love to have you speak to. It says, have teachers gotten pushback in the latest political climate? So I think that some of the, I mean, any educator can really be reflective about trying to walk the line of being an advocate for all of our students and yet running into some fear in the acceptance of some of the things that might be brought up in the classroom, or what is or not appropriate.
Oh my gosh, yes. This is like my favorite question ever to talk about in this topic, because it comes up all the time, and there's no there's not necessarily a clear answer that is like, this is the answer, right? So almost every guest on my podcast, I've like surfaced this question in some way. So you want to get a different answer every time. So yes, I think some people are definitely running into this. What I think is an interesting thread that I've lately heard about is people who are doing some research, just kind of like anecdotally in their own districts, kind of looking at news cycles, have noticed that it's often far more than we think it is of an issue for example, parents. Like for family members, we often plan with a family member in mind who might come in angry at us for talking about justice, when in reality, we have many more family members who might be upset that we're not engaging in justice conversations, or who would have our backs if we were to engage in those conversations. And so people who have done like surveys of the families' perceptions in the districts have gotten shocking results that, wow, actually almost everyone is actually supportive of this. And it's like one or two very vocal people who are not. And so I think the big question that someone else told me, and I can't remember who to give credit for here, but is to plan with those people who support you in mind versus planning for those one or two families who 9 times out of 10, when they have a conversation with you about what you're actually teaching, for example, using the term activism, right? Like talking about what it is, like, oh, we want to find an issue that your kid cares about and help them make a difference. They're like, oh yeah, I totally support that. Right? Like it's a miscommunication. And so it's usually good.
And Lindsay, what I really love about what you're sharing is the work that you do isn't necessarily even the teacher bringing up this specific issue. It's identifying the students for themselves to identify an issue that they would like to be an advocate for. And I think that that's a really big difference. Another element, a great suggestion in the comments is, if you do have something you're looking to bring up and you have some concern, going to your leadership and discussing it first as a collaborative partner gives you both ends of the spectrum, right? Maybe you do have a little bit of a plan that you want to guide your students in. Okay, then bring more people into that conversation, make sure the support exists. Or on the flip side, when you change the narrative and allow students to choose their topics, it might be a more comfortable circumstance for many of those families. Brad, as a principal, do you agree with these approaches?
Yeah, Lindsay, I think your approach is so wise. When you anticipate what the questions might be, you can get out ahead of any misunderstandings. Let's face it, when there are gaps in the information, especially when the ideas or the issues are charged or emotional, people may automatically fill in the blanks with their assumptions or their worst case scenarios, and then you've got a bigger problem than you started with. And so really wise to anticipate what the questions and concerns might be, communicate clearly so that you're providing both reassurance, but also you're providing a confident stance that I'm here to activate your kids' interests. I'm here to help them to make a difference for themselves, with each other, in our community. And then you're keeping the conversation going. So what other questions might be coming to mind? Because the questions that come to mind from parents, caregivers, other stakeholders, they may signal to us that others have the same need for information, and we can again head off those misunderstandings or those rushes to judgment just with good, clear communication. I think it's really wise.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things too. Like you're saying, the kind of heading off the conversation or heading off the questions. I think issuing a like start of the year, again, 4 quarters, 4 units, like start of each quarter, here's the driving question. Here's the final project. Like just communicating that. Here's a core text we'll be looking at. If you have any questions, let me know. Like, come on in, talk to me. And then you're opening that door. And I've even invited family members. No one has taken, maybe one family member has taken this offer up, but they would come in to sit into the class. I'm like, we're having a discussion. Like, feel free to like come audit the class. Most people can't do that. Perhaps with Zoom now, that was not a technology that was as prevalent when I was in the classroom, but that could be something, where you're like, here's what's happening. We'll record it. We'll send it home. Let's continue the conversation at home. That's like every teacher's dream, right? Like have these conversations outside of my classroom.
I love the reminder, Lindsay, that anytime there's something a parent may be concerned about, the invitation to not have this unknown classroom, but invite them into the learning space is so valuable. I know for many of you using the grid method, that's something that we talk about all the time, is inviting colleagues, parents, stakeholders in to see it in action, because we know that when they experience it, they're going to see the value. Otherwise, we would never be an advocate for the practice. So it's such a wonderful conversation. Lindsay, we have some giggles we're going to get into with our oh my gosh, Wednesday. It's Sunday, because anyone was wondering, with our Sunday conversation. But there's so much good coming up next, and we definitely want to get into how you all can connect with Lindsay. So we'll be right back. I know there are some awesome questions in the comments. We love when you guys choose to engage with our live stream, so keep it up. If we have any questions that we didn't answer for you, don't forget Lindsay can continue to be a part of your professional learning network. You can chat with her about her ideas. And personally, I know her website's awesome because I totally looked through it in depth the other day. I love your website, Lindsay. So they're going to I'll go pop there as well. Brad, I heard that we have a weekly giggle story for today.
Yeah, we sure do. And Weekly Giggles comes to you from Southwestern Elementary School in Central Indiana, Ray. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can see for yourself how a school principal in Indiana is going the extra mile. Just one moment, I'll get that screen up for us here.
I cannot wait. Gotta love a good visual. Oh my goodness.
This is Beth Hoeing, who is principal of Southwestern Elementary School in Southern Indiana. And Beth appears in a TikTok video, and she's dressed as the elf on the shelf. And she positions herself in different places around the building, bringing surprise and delight to everybody at her school community. She's taken 2 video series and just positioning herself in different ways around the school. She can be seen greeting children beside a Christmas tree as they walk around the school, by the copy machines, and here she is. She's in a trophy case, displaying probably a school trophy, and to surprise and delight of her faculty and students, this principal in Indiana is herself the elf on the shelf.
I love anything that is goofy like that. Anytime you see leaders or teachers being nutty, whether it be holiday related or just any time throughout the school year, it brings me so much joy. I love that stuff.
It really is about meeting your community with humor and with love and with really a sense of not taking yourself too seriously. I mean, there's tremendous amount of seriousness in what we do. I mean, we're serving the nation's kids and families. It's also important to let your community know that you celebrate the lighter side of life along with them. So whether it's dressing as an elf on a shelf or having a comfy, cozy day to celebrate the holiday, or whatever it is that brings a little bit of spark and a little bit of community to your school space, whether it's in your classroom, hallways, or across the school, Ray and Lindsay, I think it's a wonderful opportunity just to share the humanity and the fun of the holiday season together.
Well, we always appreciate those fun stories, those fun weekly giggles. Of course, you guys can continue to connect with so many different stories Brad continues to share on other Sunday shows. Lindsay, before we wrap up here, I'd love to have you share your website, how people can stay connected to you, because I know we have a lot of people that are going to want to continue to learn more.
Absolutely. So my website is just www.lindsaybethlyons.com. On there, you can get a bunch of stuff. I usually have a free resource each week that goes out as part of the podcast. So there's a tab in there. The podcast is called Time for Teachership, and it is part of the Teach Better podcast network. So you can also find it on there. And I am always available via email to chat. I love brainstorming curriculum ideas. So it's just hello@lindsaybethlyons.com.
So valuable. Friends, I know that this conversation flew by, but I'm so excited for our community here to keep engaging with this content and also enjoy the next few weeks of wrapping up the school year, ending the year strong, and heading into the new year. Brad, can you believe that this is our last show before 2023?
It's bittersweet for sure because Ray, getting to connect with you and fantastic guests like Lindsay certainly is the highlight of my week. But I also know that taking time to rest, restore, and connect with the people, places, and things that we love the most is essential in any organization, including Teach Better. So I'm wishing everybody, including you, Ray and Lindsay, a wonderful holiday ahead. And Ray, can you remind me when we are on the air again next? I think it'll be soon after the new year.
Yes, unfortunately, friends, we have a Christmas holiday that we know so many of you celebrate. We also have a New Year holiday that many of us celebrate as well. So we will not be here on the Sunday show for another 2 weeks. The third week, that week after New Year's, we'll be back, which is exciting for us all to hear about everyone's New Year's and holiday plans and how everything went with family, maybe having some of those tough conversations. As we are continuing into the winter season, we want to celebrate with all of you that while Brad and I may not be live together for the Sunday show, we will have Wednesday wake up, not this week, but the week between Christmas and New Year's. So I think that's the 28th, I believe. So I hope you join Jeff Gargis and I live bright and early at 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning. And then there is a killer live stream that I really hope all of you have already put on your calendar. And this will just be the reminder to set your alarm. But next week, between Christmas and New Year's, the one and only Chad Ostrowski will be live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, going over designing a grid from the bare bones beginning. The next day, he'll be going over those essential classroom management hurdles that we always problem solve through. And then his Thursday live stream will focus on how administrative support can support an educator using those mastery learning grid method practices. So if any of you are interested in enhancing your instructional practices, learning more about the grid method, learning about mastery learning, that will be an invaluable experience. And that will be streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn the 27th through the 29th. So Chad Ostrowski is going to be awesome. Cannot wait. Brad, thanks so much for coming live with me. Lindsay, it was so wonderful to see you, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Wishing you the same. Lindsay, you are an awesome guest, and I can't wait to stay connected with you and hopefully have you back on the Sunday show again soon. And congratulations on all that you're doing to bring activism and community contributions to life for your students. And Ray, wishing you and Lindsay a wonderful holiday ahead too. Looking forward to reconnecting in 2023. It's going to be the best year ever.
So good. See you later, friends. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And of course, as always, let us know if you need anything. Bye, guys.